This is Cave Slave. This is a Narwhal book, and while most Narwhal books are usually complete solo projects, he does everything from the writing to the lettering. This is one that's done in collaboration. Of course, you've got Narwhal on the art, but this is along with Donald DeLay, and this is written by Von Klaus with Narwhal working on the story. And I have to say, this is very much a classic Narwhal type of book, definitely in terms of the style. He's got this really unique, absurdist style towards drawing comics that really shows up here. You can definitely see on this first page, you see the lettering here that's stick. He's got this very way of doing the onomatopoeia and the lettering, and from the character designs, you can see, although of course Donald DeLay does work on this art as well, and you can definitely see there's a little bit of a uniqueness that's a bit of, I would say, a departure from Narwhal style, especially in these clan or tribesmen, I should say. And this is a really short book. This is a 24-pager. It's a really short story. Von Klaus does have a pretty coherently structured story. Of course, some of these transitions, especially in the first one, like you've just got them talking, and then it's this wild animal, and then they kill the wild animal, and then you've got the ending of the book. So it is very quick. This is, of course, a 24-pager. It is a very simple story. Apparently, it is the first issue of a longer series. That remains to be seen if there will be more Cave Slave. This did appear in the Narwhal Shorts Compendium, so this does work as a short story, but it also does work as being the first issue in a longer series, because there is stuff that is mentioned in this book that isn't explained at all. So it's laying the groundworks for Cave Slave being a series rather than a one-shot. But this also does work as a one-shot with how Von Klaus wrote this book. And of course, the art, like I said, it's got this very unique style. I think Donald DeLay's contributions are pretty good, especially in this background art here. This definitely is a bit of a departure from Narwhal usually does. But his presence is definitely seen in the character design. You can see you've got the Cave Slave here, and she very much has a design that reminds me of plenty of Narwhal characters. So if you've read other Narwhal books and you like them, you're going to like this one. You're going to be right at home with this. If you do not like Narwhal's art style, you're not going to like this book, because it's very much like you either love his style or you hate it. That's what I've noticed with Narwhal's books. He's got this way of drawing things and presenting things to the reader. His entire style, it's very unique. He does draw things very competently, but the way he does things, it's intentionally making things look a certain way. And I think a lot of people, it comes off as being amateurish with how things are designed, like it's lacking detail, or it looks like it was done poorly. You can especially see, like you see some of this lettering here for the onomatopoeia has got a very unique style, and it looks very much like handwritten instead of being like this typical comic book where it's very clean and presented quite well, especially if you're used to reading like Marvel, DC, even like I'd say a lot of Ripper First books. Invisible Studios does that lettering, and they're very professional, very clean. That's how a lot of lettering is. Narwhal is much more looser with how he does inks and pencils, and of course his lettering as well. And all of that is very much here in Cave Slave, and it's a very simple story, and I think that works well for Narwhal's art style. And of course, you got Donald DeLay working on this art as well. Know exactly which pages he contributed on, but I can tell that it's not. There are some deviations from Narwhal's typical style, but it all is nice to flip through. It is pretty visually interesting, although some of the action scenes could have been depicted a little bit better. You've got one here. It does kind of just happen where it doesn't feel as dynamic, so the action, I would say, is a bit weak, but it still is visually interesting. Like I said, the character designs all look pretty nice, and most of this does have that momentum that you need for a comic book. So it's not looking like static pages, but there is momentum. But some of it is, like I said, a little bit confusing, especially in those action scenes. But this being a 24-pager has a pretty simple beginning, very short middle, and then the ending is a bit abrupt. And like I said, this possibly could be a ongoing series, or at least a series, where there's more Cave Slave, because I was reading up about this and it's described as the first issue. It does appear in the Narwhal Shorts Compendium, so you can also think of it as a short story. And as a short story on its own, this is, I would say, definitely worth the time, especially if you're a fan of Narwhal's art style. Like I said, you either jive with it or you don't. I don't think there's really an in-between with how Narwhal goes about things. And while some of the transitions could have been better, some of the things could have been made to be a bit more clear, this is a pretty easy story to wrap your head around, and it's a really good foundation for more issues of Cave Slave. So Cave Slave does become an ongoing series, then Von Klaus gave a pretty good foundation to write more and to expand upon this world and actually build out the lore and the reasons why the Cave Slave became a Cave Slave, and why her being sun-haired is such a bad thing, and all these things that are really hinted at. It can definitely be expanded upon in later issues. So it's a really good foundational work for a series, and it's just a fun one shot to read, especially, like I said, if you jive with Narwhal style. If you don't, then you're not really going to get much out of this. But like I said, for a short 24-page comic that you can think of as a one shot, I don't think you could really ask for much more. And like I said, I do like Narwhal style. A lot of people jive with it. That's why he got his reputation in indie comics, but a lot of people just, are off-put by the way Narwhal draws things, and that's perfectly okay. But if you are one of those people that's off-put by the art of Narwhal, then you're not going to be off-put by this book, even though some of it does lean away from that absurdist abstract style into something that's a bit more, I'd say, visually coherent, but more I guess, safer. And I would say Donald DeLay's contributions are more clear in that, like I said, especially like stuff like this and the designs of the tribesmen, like here, very much strikes me as something that Narwhal would not draw. But that's really all I have to say about Cave Slave. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Joker is out.